Today's okay. Connecticut General Statutes 22A, 228B is in essence the solid waste management plan. And it can be condensed into reduce, reuse, recover, reduce our garbage, reuse what we can, recycle what we can't, and recover the energy from what's left over. At the bottom of this priority list is landfills. We'll find out pretty soon that we're way ahead of the curve nationally in addressing our solid waste needs. But to look particularly at Connecticut, we make about 3.1 million tons of MSW. These are 2009 estimates. We have a shortage of good data in the state because DEP is unable to collect some of it, and we only have the data from the towns we serve. But throughout this demonstration presentation today, we'll be using data from as old as 2005 to as recent as yesterday. 3.1 million tons of MSW, 1.1 million tons of C&D. Not a particularly critical issue for towns, typically, but it's a very significant waste stream for our private customers. We do not do much in C&D. It's typically held by handled by the private sector at volume reduction facilities, and virtually all of it ultimately sent out of state. About 26% of what MSW we regenerate, we recycle, compost, or grass cycle. About 100,000 tons goes to Connecticut landfills, the one landfill left remaining in Windsor, which will be closing shortly, and about 200,000 in 2009 to out-of-state landfill. That was a much larger number in years previous because of the economy slowing down. The amount of garbage generated in the state has dropped precipitously, and therefore less is exported out. A pie chart that shows how we manage this waste. About 2.1 million is sent to trash to energy plants, CRRAs or privates. About a quarter is recycled, small amounts exported in landfill and home composted. Nationally, Connecticut is the leader in trash to energy. We manage a higher percentage of our garbage through trash to energy than any other state. That's good news because it's the environmentally preferred method of dealing with our garbage. The amount of waste, the percentage of waste treated in trash to energy continues to go up, but that will eventually flatline because there's no new garbage plants being built. Hopefully we can shrink the amount of garbage we generate and create and keep our capacity close to our demand. Nationally, we are, in 2015, going to be the first state to eliminate the use of landfills inside our state. We will be able to close the Windsor landfill and rely entirely on trash to energy and hopefully a small amount of export. That's very remarkable. As I had said, it's the most, trash to energy is the preferred method of dealing with our garbage. We recover renewable energy and minimize the volume to be dealt with. Landfills are the least preferred method. The fact that we are one of 50 states that can do without landfills, or nearly without landfills, and have no active landfills for MSW inside our borders is pretty remarkable. An interesting statistic here is, and these are mid-con numbers, we don't have this number for the entire state, but it's pretty typical across the state, is the amount of garbage disposed of by haulers versus by municipalities. Most people are surprised by this, but a significant majority of the tons delivered to us and to trash energy plants and landfills is by private haulers. So they are, excuse me, more and more taking up the burden of disposal for the citizens of Connecticut. A waste characterization of the waste that we generate in our MSW, and this is after we've recycled what we can, or what we think we can, is pretty interesting. And I raised this for a few reasons. You'll notice the pie chart shows significant amounts of paper, plastic, and organics are still in our garbage after we've thrown it in the back of the truck, after we've recycled what we think we can. This is important for a couple of reasons. If we want to keep the demand for waste disposal current with our supply of waste disposal capacity, we will need to be able to handle all the growth in our garbage through recycling or diversion away from disposal. You can see that in the garbage we're throwing out now, there's plenty of room for improvements. Most of that paper, essentially all of that paper, is recyclable, and those organics can all be pulled out of the waste stream and handled differently. Here's the recycling rate. Once again, the Mid-Con project, but it's reflective of the state performance. You can see that a few key dates here were the introduction of mixed paper recycling, the introduction of all numbered plastics, 1 through 7, and most importantly, and no surprise, the beginning of our steep climb there in increasing our percentage rate is the introduction of single-stream recycling. This is probably going to be the last time you hear me harangue you about single-stream recycling. If you haven't figured out by now, or haven't come to the conclusion by now that single-stream is a very effective way of boosting your recycling rate for virtually any town, and maybe a couple here and there that would conclude otherwise. But if you can't see that by now, I'm going to stop talking about it. Here's what happened with Torrington when they switched to single-stream recycling. That's dual-stream recycling, single-stream starts, and about 1,000 tons find their way out of the waste stream and into the recycling stream. And what does that mean for Mayor Bingham? It means about $70,000 more available to him in his general fund budget than would have been the case had he not switched to single stream. To look again at the solid waste disposal situation, here is our demand curve. Here's our disposal capacity. As you can see, it's flatlined. We're not building any new plants. We're not building any landfills. And here's our to-date generation rate. Goes up and down a bit with the economy, but essentially slow growth towards that line. So you could extend that green line into the light blue line. That is what DEP thinks will happen with garbage. Personally, I think I'm skeptical that it will grow at that rate, mainly because I don't think the economy will recover to previous levels of economic growth. But nonetheless, we don't have enough capacity in the state to meet our present demand, much less any growth. In 2014, Bristol, a municipal facility, will be essentially privatized. It will become, the capacity still will be there, but it will not be publicly controlled. The same thing will happen to Preston in either 2015 or 2017, depending on some options in the contract. End result is the same. The capacity remains. It's now controlled and available to, well, as the market dictates, to whomever is interested. Back to recycling. As important as recycling is, both environmentally and financially, we should be aware of its limitations. This is an interesting graph because it shows, of course, where we launch single-stream recycling, and we see the pretty steep pickup. But what it also hopefully points out is right about here, where we start mixed paper recycling, we see that the addition of mixed paper into the recycling bins does not even counteract the decline in traditional fiber. Traditional fiber is old newspaper, and that's no surprise if you look at the Sunday Current or the Sunday Bridgeport Post from 10 years ago. You can measure it in inches. Now you measure it in probably less than an inch. the number of people subscribing to the newspapers has dropped precipitously. Significant amounts of our income in recycling have historically come from ONP and corrugated. As that commodity declines, we fill in for it with catalogs and magazines and mixed paper, but there's a limit to what's available to us. We have to work a lot harder to get that remaining fiber out of the waste stream, because the easy fiber is disappearing from